Flow Wrestling dropped a workout Wednesday that was epic. And if you paid attention, it can absolutely change your athlete or your wrestler's life moving forward. For 25 years, I've been trying to communicate this to people, and I guess I'm just not a good communicator because people fail to recognize and realize that what has always been done doesn't mean it's what we're supposed to be doing to be successful. Sometimes people succeed in spite of what they're doing and in spite of what other people are trying to get them to do. And sometimes the systems are messed up, and unfortunately, people don't realize that. What we're talking about, people are talking.
People talking.
And they're saying that you're leaving. That's from the Vision Quest soundtrack. What are people talking about? So, Kyle Dake, four-time national champ, 4 different weight classes, one of the best in the world right now, international style. And he goes on there and he's on Flow and he's talking about how he's doing things differently than he did in college. Okay, for starters, let me just say this for people, and this is not to piss anybody off, but if you don't like the truth, deal with it. I don't care. So, if you're in a system, you have to figure out how to operate within that system as long as that system will allow it. Meaning, if you're in college, you have to do what the coach tells you to do. It would be wonderful to do what would be best for you. Unfortunately, if the coach wants you to do something, you're gonna have to sit down and have a conversation with that coach and say, hey, I think this way works the best for me. Can we fit this in with what's going on? You can sit down and have that meeting with the coach. The same thing with the strength coach or the performance coach or whatever you want to call it. In the video, in the interview, Kyle's talking about movement patterns and stuff like this. Wonderful things. Everything that he said on there was 100% accurate that I saw. Okay? So energy systems, movement patterns, that is all that performance development is all about anyway. That and being as connected as you can be with your environment, which he talked about being barefoot and getting sunlight and all that, like talking about sleep optimization and blue light stuff that Jim Quick talks about it all the time. Like you can tell. And the other thing too, Kyle Dake talked about that people probably missed out on this because they were busy watching him do throws and stuff like that, which is also equally impressive because he's a freak of nature because he's actually one with nature. The other thing is the whole, he's like, I've always questioned things. That's called curiosity. That's a flow trigger. This stuff is not, something, you literally can get online and do research and discover this stuff. The whole movement patterning thing. Somebody can say, he doesn't lift weights. Resistance training is lifting weights. So although he doesn't lift weights traditionally, he is doing resistance training. Because behind the movement was a resistance. So that's resistance training. You can say things in a different vocabulary that still mean the same thing. It's so exciting, and also you can say exciting in a good way or a bad way, but it's exciting that Flow actually released this and that we have a wrestler who's doing stuff that it's not cutting edge either. It's not cutting edge to look at your movement patterns and to understand where you need to create leverage and where an energy is coming from and where you need to take it to and how it's going to dissipate safely and understanding what you do really well. Another thing that he talked about in there, I'm trying to think, he was talking about feedback systems, and obviously it's more helpful when you're not wearing shoes so that you get more used to just the natural movement within your feet all the way up through your body. But he was also talking about pattern recognitions and wrestling, and while you're getting live reps and you're drilling and things like that, not only are you trying to put out there different pattern sequences for yourself, but also then the feedback loop of recognizing another person's pattern or patterns in nature or whatever systems, and then taking advantage of that. But I also want to take you back to an important thing. He said, after college, I was so hurt and I was so beat down and whatever. Okay, now if he could have it to do all over again, he went back to college, he went back to high school, what would he do? So if you are in high school or in college, listen to this. Sit down with your coach and try to talk with them about what are we doing, why are we doing it, and why why are we doing this in this situation or at this time? The sequence is important. It's important to understand what's best for you isn't best for the next person on the team either. So they have to do their own thing. So I'm going to give you this as a homework assignment that could help you right now, because I can't keep it in any longer. It's bottled up. And like I said, 25 years of trying to get people to understand this and to question forward. I'm not looking for people, and we're not looking for people with our business to necessarily just take us for granted, but ask the questions like Kyle Dake's talking about. Be curious. Get to the why. Be an intelligent person that seeks to first understand a situation and then later put it into your terms, into how it fits into your environment, into your system, into your offense, to your defense, to your personal history, to your habits, to your strengths, to your weaknesses, to the things that you do well and the way that you communicate them. He talked about in there, before we get to the assignment, he talked about in there, like, this is how it works best for him. That was the key point. Like, he's doing things that work best for him. Maybe something else works best for you. Sitting down with a coach, because their coaches want you to do what's best for you, but they also need it to fit into a system for them to be able to train as a group. But they want you to win a national title. They want you to be an All-American. They want you to be healthy. However, what they're doing isn't always the best. Why? They need feedback from you. If you're going to be the best, if a team's going to be the best, they need your feedback. Now, they need it at an appropriate time, because it's not appropriate time in the middle of practice to disrupt practice by giving your feedback then. The appropriate time is in their office or at a time when you can sit down and say, hey, listen, I've been thinking, I've been asking questions, I've been blah, 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 I've been doing research. This is what I do. These are the situations I do well. These are my transitions. These are the things I think we could do differently in our strength and conditioning. This is how I think I can improve my performance. This is how my nutrition impacts that. This is how, like, reducing the blue light in situations of when I'm taking, rests and when I'm sleeping and when I'm recovering and I needed to get nutrition here and it needs to be this and at this level and I need to have like my massage at this time or my rolling. It's pattern recognition and movement patterns. It's not new. It's Astern patterning. It's Egoscue. You've seen Conor McGregor doing some stuff online, and that's not new stuff either. That's from way back. You got Chris McGrath down in New York City doing crazy stuff. Go over to Britain. You got Mark Hummerford who's crushing it with his systems. Then you get into the body stuff. You get into Rolfing. You get into there's TUINOD, there's PRT, there's ART, there's PRI, there's PNF, there's like so many acronyms, it'll blow your mind. You're gonna have to be sitting online looking up what the heck these things mean over and over and over again. I can go on forever about this stuff, but here is your assignment. If you choose to do so, if you act, if you want to get all Mission Impossible on things, okay, here's your assignment if you choose to be better, okay? Here's your assignment. I'm going to give you some information, and I'll probably get yelled at for giving away information on this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, here's your assignment. Sit down. Look at what you do the best. Okay, just pick 3 things. 3 things that you do the best. And then pick one thing that you need to minimize doing that you do that hurts you, that moves you closer towards losing than winning. And then the 3 things should move you closer towards winning. Look at some of the transitions that lead you to those situations where you're winning, those 3 things that you're doing really well. Now, step back and look at your human performance. Now, look at the things that move you towards that needle, move you towards those 3 things, okay? Your nutrition, your sleep, your recovery. Look at those things and how they impact that. Make some adjustments as it relates to that. Then sit down with your strength coach, with your performance coach, with whatever you want to call the person. Sit down if you got a PT, an AT, a PA, whatever. Whoever is in charge of your human performance, other than yourself, and maybe your coach too. And sit down and say, what can I do strength-wise that is going to help me, or speed-wise, or agility-wise, or quickness-wise, or coordination-wise, or stamina-wise, energy system-wise, movement pattern-wise, that can help me move me towards being more effective, more efficient, more ecological in those situations, and then have immediate impact. And at what sequence and what timing and what volume do I need to do these on a weekly basis so that I can improve? And then increase and then integrate the mental training aspect too. These are all things that you should already be doing. What are your goals? What are you trying to improve on every day? If you just watch the videos that Kyle Dake has had on Flow with what he's doing and he's done with goals, and now like what he's sharing with you with his revelations, it's impactful. But only if you can put it into practice today. What does that mean? You can't just walk into practice and say, hey coach, I saw this episode on Flow Wrestling and Coach Kutri was talking about how it's awesome and this is what I'm doing today for practice. You think any college coach is gonna let you do that? You're out of your mind. Think any high school coach is gonna let you do that? You're out of your mind. Guess what? Most great champions are out of their mind, but there is a best practice. There is a way to do that that's appropriate, and it's not just show up and do it. It's sit down with the coach in private and talk to him about it. Same thing with the strength and conditioning aspect, the human performance piece, the nutrition piece. Hey, listen, I'm looking to do this, and this is why, this is where I heard it from. Walk into that situation prepared so that when somebody asks you a question, you have answers, that you're also willing to sit down and listen to what they have to say. If you have a strength coach that's all about like Olympic lifts and you're a pitcher, should you be doing a snatch? Should you be doing a clean? Should you be doing a jerk? I don't know. There might be some people that that's great for. Most people, though, that might not be great for. But it doesn't matter what's working for most people. It matters what's working for you. You, and that's it. But if you're on a team, you have to understand how you're going to operate within that team's construct, within that team's matrix, if you want to get all Neo and Morpheus on this whole thing. They have a matrix, you have to operate within the matrix. But it doesn't mean you can't sit down with the coach privately and say, hey, what can I do to optimize my situation? Why am I so jacked up about all this stuff? I'm just pumped that Flow put something out with the content that's real, that actually works, because guess what? Most coaches out there want to be great, but do they really want to change what tradition has shown like works over time? But it hasn't shown that it works over time. It's just proven that if everybody's doing this, that it must work. But that's not the case. It's not optimal to go through. Like, look at the injuries. People would say, oh, well, that's just a fact of like college athletics. Injuries are going to happen. Doesn't happen to everybody. Oh, well, it's just brutal. It's a grind. People love to be stoic about stuff. People love to be Spartan-like about stuff. There's a reason why Spartan race is huge. Okay? There's a reason why stoicism is like being rekindled. No pun intended. And people like Tim Ferriss and Ryan Holiday talk about, oh, we got to be stoic. Yeah, there's a time and place for everything. But when you're injured, it's no time or place to be stoic. If you're Yanni Diakomahalis and you're in the NCAA championships, fine, be stoic. Like, grind it out, because you're there, you're in the moment. You want to win that national championship. An incredible thing that he did, and beat a phenomenal wrestler. But do you want to go on being injured the entire year, your entire career? No, there's a better way. And that's what Kyle Dake was talking about in the Flow Wrestling episode for Workout Wednesday. You have to check it out. I'm going to put a link underneath wherever I post this, and hopefully you'll watch it. Because I can tell you right now, it will make a difference. It will make a difference. But you have to be curious. You have to be willing to be made a fool of, because you're going to be doing things that other people are not doing. It's non-traditional, but it makes sense. So is traditional education the best way to go about doing things? It's not completely immersive. Is it the optimal way? No. But can the United States have everybody go through the optimal way of education? I don't think Ken Robinson thinks so. So does that mean that everybody's wrong or that Ken's right? Or I don't know. What's the story? You ask yourself, does it make sense to sit down in a classroom of people who aren't paying attention and actually just sit there and go through the paces? That's a lot like a practice most of the time, right? The good news is with a practice, the coach has some leeway. And if you sit down and invite that coach to be on the journey with you and understand that they're only going to be able to give so much leeway, you'll be surprised how many people will jump on board. And they might ask things and ask questions moving you forward also, and think differently. Literally, this has been how we've been doing stuff for 25 years. And it's not about us, it's about you. It's about your performance. This has nothing to do with my performance. This only has to do with your performance. So if you're okay with where you are, you should keep doing what you're doing, because that'll get you where you are. If you're looking to move forward, you're going to have to make improvements. You're gonna have to cut the fat. And I don't mean taking the fat out of your nutrition. It's usually the opposite of it, okay? That's a whole different story. That's a whole nother rant. So again, I don't apologize for taking your time on this if you've actually watched it. I do apologize though, on behalf of myself, to myself, if you decide you're not going to put any of this into practice. So the assignment, once again, was to sit down and to look at your human performance training and conditioning and application in life and see how it applies to how you do your sport the best you can do, and the three things that you do, and then the one thing that you're not doing great, that you can change your approach on training to impact that, and pick movements out in strength, agility, quickness, flexibility, recovery, nutrition, and even your mental training to impact those three positive things that you do, those three moves or whatever you want to call them, three situations, and then the one situation you don't do good at, okay? And then think to yourself when you're done, is this sustainable? And to what extent, and how can I employ this in my daily life, my weekly life? What does it look like schedule-wise? It is that simple. Be curious, just like Steve Jobs says, be a little bit crazy and move forward. Always moving forward. If you're sitting there doing nothing right now, don't kid yourself in thinking that you're moving forward by sitting there doing nothing. You can, if nothing else, like Jim said, Jim Quick, you can be mentally training. And he was the person who's been really pushing the whole blue light thing that Kyle's talking about in the video. The video is only 8 minutes long. If you can't listen to Kyle Dake for 8 minutes on Flow Wrestling, I'm sorry, but you're not committed to wrestling at this point. You're not committed to human performance, and you don't want to be the best that you can be. You should stop wasting your coaches